Welcome to Here's to Your Health with Joshua Lane. Here's to Your Health discusses the current thinking in wellness, bringing you the most influential thinkers in beauty, fitness, and longevity. Your host, Joshua Lane, was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that helped bring wheatgrass sprouts and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health, Joshua Lane.
Welcome to this edition of Here's to Your Health. I'm your host, Josh Lane. And I'm happy to say my guest is Denny Waxman. Denny's a regular contributor to the show, a longtime macrobiotic teacher, and the author of a new book, The Ultimate Guide to Eating for Longevity. The foreword was by Dr. T. Colin Campbell, who's very widely known and respected. And again, the book is called The Ultimate Guide to Eating for Longevity. And the nice thing about Denny is Denny hasn't been doing this subject for the past 10 years. Nothing wrong with that, of course. Denny's been doing this for the past 50 or more years, quite frankly, and so really has a huge body of knowledge about the subject. So I'm really happy when Denny's on the show. Denny, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thank you, Josh. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you on. Now, I know that just recently in July of this year, you had a very important little macrobiotic conference, which I guess you run on a regular basis. And for the listeners of Here's to Your Health who have heard the term macrobiotics, but really don't really know quite what it entails, what is macrobiotics?
Well, macrobiotics is it's a lifestyle with a dietary base, and the diet is a whole food, plant-based diet, and it's based on all of the world's long-standing traditional cuisine. So we've discovered that all the world's long-standing civilizations had the same eating pattern, which is simply grains, beans, vegetables, seeds, nuts, and fruits, naturally fermented foods, and mild beverages and sweeteners. So everywhere from the Far East through the Americas, Africa, Europe, every place really followed the same pattern. It's fascinating. So the macrobiotic diet was basically, so it's a traditionally based diet, fashioned off these patterns that we've had for 10,000 years, and also it's lifestyle practices. So like sitting down to eat and eating at regular times, things of that nature.
Right, things which...
So that's really what macrobiotic...
Right. From your perspective, these things are just really very commonsensical. They're not very esoteric. So, you mentioned adding grains, beans, and vegetables to our diet. So when you say grains, you're referring to like brown rice and millet. Is that it? Do you think these are valuable additions to our regime?
Yeah, brown rice, millet, barley, also oatmeal, polenta, bulgur, even Italian pasta, which is really durum wheat semolina, similar to couscous, and unyeasted sourdough bread. So these are the most common grains that have been eaten.
And so these grains have been used traditionally for a very long time. And what's the value of eating these whole grains?
Well, grain is really the most unique food on the planet because grain is the seed and the fruit merged into one without any separation. So it's literally the entire plant kingdom merged into one. And grains can grow the entire growing range on the planet, and they can store for hundreds of years, still sprout, and reproduce themselves. So they're completely unique among all our foods. Right.
And grains give us, a lot of B vitamins and fiber. Is that what they kind of do, basically?
Yeah, protein, mineral, B vitamins, essentially. And it's interesting. All people are known. They're synonymous with the grain that they ate. So, for example, you can't separate rice from Asia or bread from Europe or corn from the Americas. It's such an integral part of our culture and life. People kind of take them for granted.
Right. They seem to, but they are traditional food we've been using for about 10,000 years. Okay, so that's grains, right. And we're using grains not only as a breakfast meal, but we're using grain as part of the meal when we have, when we have beans and we have tempeh. So in other words, with the beans and the grains, does that give us a complete meal?
It does. Well, we see a complete meal as a grain and a separate vegetable dish. That's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. A lot of people think vegetables for breakfast are really strange. I mean, a lot of people, kind of can't get into that. But if you try it, you'll find out vegetables are truly satisfying for breakfast. So we eat a grain and separate vegetable dish with every meal. Then we have a bean and a bean product, a tofu or tempeh dish, both every day.
All right.
So we have a variety of grains, a variety of beans, and soy products, a variety of vegetables. Then the other foods I mentioned are, further round that out.
Now, when we're talking about beans, now most everyone really likes beans, of course, but people always make jokes about how they get gas from eating beans. Now, why do people get gas from eating beans, and how can we prevent that?
Well, there's a couple ways. One, we cook beans with kombu seaweed. That makes them far more digestible. But it's basically if you eat a food, you develop the digestive enzymes to digest it properly. So it's basically, add beans little by little into your diet, and, so you allow yourself to, develop the enzymes so you can digest them properly.
All righty. And with beans, do you also like to soak your beans before you cook them?
Yeah, we soak our beans and discard the soaking water, then cook them with fresh water. That helps cut down on the gas as well.
All righty. Now, here's a question. So now, if a person's going to be eating beans, how much beans, you've been counseling macrobiotics for 50 years or more, how many beans is appropriate to eat? I mean, should we eat a tablespoon of beans? So how much beans?
No, we consider a serving of beans to be a half to 1 cup of beans after they're cooked.
Okay.
So a fair amount.
Yeah, it's a fair amount. Okay, and you found that the people you've worked with over these many years do well on that, so they enjoy the taste, and then they feel satisfied. It stabilizes their blood sugar?
Oh, completely. Most people find that eating this way is the most delicious and satisfying, besides being healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So, once your taste adjusts and your digestive system adjusts, the taste, the enjoyment. Like you said, I've been doing this more than 50 years, and every time I have a meal, I think it couldn't be more delicious.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I agree. I love macrobiotic foods. I've always loved macrobiotic foods. And also, let me say this, a lot of things in American society now we take for granted, but really it was macrobiotics in the 1960s and 70s that added literally what? Whole grains. People didn't eat brown rice before then.
Right.
And sea vegetables. Americans didn't use dulse or wakame or haziki. No one, it wasn't even considered legitimate food. So sea vegetables, grains, tempeh, fermented soy protein. It's amazing, really. And also sea salt. It's also surprising how influential macrobiotics has been in changing our thinking about food, and yet people don't seem to give them any credit.
I know it's hard for me to understand. Your list is pretty complete, and there's also, fermentation.
Right.
Miso and pickles and sauerkraut, which is like a booming industry now.
Yes.
There's sauerkraut and onion-said sourdough bread, all these things. And I don't know, macrobiotics for some reason, is largely invisible for a lot of people. But I'm hoping that's going to change, because I think one of the things that's happening more these days, that we've noticed, that people are getting more interested in natural diet, lifestyle, and natural health.
Yes.
So some people are looking to be, protected, or, what's the latest medical treatment, but others, a much larger group now, are looking to turn to themselves, how to create their own health through their diet and lifestyle.
Right, right.
It's finally starting to really grow.
Yeah, I think it's really growing. I remember when you were a young man, obviously, you opened the Essene Grocery in Philadelphia. What year was that?
Yeah.
What year was that?
It was 1969.
Right.
March 21st, 1969.
That was a long time ago. I may ask, how old were you when you opened Essene in Philadelphia?
19.
19. So really, you were a pioneer. I really am enamored of that. It's really impressive. And also, let me just say this once again, the idea of fermented foods, which is now widely used, I think that macrobiotics deserves a great deal of credit for that, because of the introduction of, miso, and soy and tamaris, which really were not used in the United States largely until macrobiotics promoted them so successfully and people realize, oh my God, we like the way this tastes and we feel good on it. So Macrobiotics deserves credit for that. They really do. It's impressive.
Yeah, and sauerkraut, which, when I started, there was no natural sauerkraut. I remember the first barrel of naturally made sauerkraut that we got. And, it was like a revelation to taste, something, a real pickle.
Right. Yeah, real pickle. You're quite right. It's amazing because, everyone loves pickles, and Macrobiotics introduced, in my opinion, on a large scale, a better quality pickle. I mean, just better quality. And people thought, man, this even tastes better. They may not have agreed with you that it was better for them because they said, oh, no, we eat carefully. Don't you make fun of the way we eat. Not that we were making fun of them, but we were saying, no, this is better. But people said, well, we're not sure it's better, but we do know it tastes good. So that was a success at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, so fermented foods. So again, what are the important fermented foods that you promote today for your students?
Well, as you already mentioned, so we have miso and shoyu, natural soy sauce. Then we have sauerkraut and kimchi. And then we have umeboshi plums, which are a pickled fruit, and also olives. Then brown rice or apple cider vinegar. And then finally, unyeasted sourdough bread. So bread made with a natural sourdough culture, which is, again, a traditional fermented food.
And so you feel that fermented foods are really paramount to our good health.
Right, because, science is talking about prebiotics, fiber, and probiotics, natural fermentation. And that's the combination that provides the best health. Because, in Oriental medicine, they've known about the microbiome for at least 5,000 years. Now, science is talking about our gut, our health, our immunity, everything, stems from our gut. And basically, we need fiber, which is the grains, beans, and vegetables, and then natural fermentation.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, what Macrobiotics has done is taken the most unique fermented foods from around the world.
Yeah, they have.
Put them all together.
They have. Our guest is Denny Waxman, and Denny Waxman is the author of a great book called The Ultimate Guide to Eating for Longevity, and that's one of his new books. And the foreword on that one is from T. Colin Campbell, very known for his research. And again, the book is The Ultimate Guide to Eating for Longevity. Denny, here's a concept that you don't hear too much discussed today, but obviously seems just very important, and that is the idea of chewing your food well at least 30 times per mouthful. Now, that's something that I find is valid. So tell us about that.
Well, digestion begins in the mouth, and especially carbohydrate digestion. So if you're eating grains, beans, and starchy vegetables, let's say sweet potatoes, squash, carrots. So if you're eating, the so-called starchy foods, that digestion begins in the mouth. And even if it's not carbohydrate-based, the more thoroughly we chew our food, then the more nutrition we absorb in the small intestine. Right. So by chewing, we change the taste of our food, we digest it more thoroughly, but literally we absorb more nutrients. So, digestion begins in the mouth, and that aids the whole process from beginning to end.
So, Denny, after a person chews their food 30 times, it becomes liquid, doesn't it?
Right. And that's the idea. Basically, when we eat, we're converting solid food into liquid.
Right.
So in our intestines, it's absorbed as liquid.
All righty. Yes, if people are smiling when they hear this, they might think, oh, that seems kind of silly. But if you try it just once, you realize when you chew your food 30 times, you eat a lot less, don't you? You really eat a lot less.
You eat less, you're more satisfied. But, really, macrobiotics, everybody says the macrobiotic diet, but it's really the macrobiotic lifestyle. And in our approach, how you eat is every bit as important as what you eat. So sitting down and eating without doing other things, where you really connect with your food, you eat slowly and you chew the food, you have a different degree of satisfaction from your food than if you just, eat on the run or don't think about it. At the same time, it's like sitting down to having a good conversation with someone.
Right.
You're really connecting with them. Well, when you sit down and eat slowly and chew, you connect with your food in a different way.
Right.
It's amazing.
Right. No, it's completely true. Our author is Denny Waxman, a regular contributor to the show, and Denny's the author of a very nice new book. Denny has a number of books, but the new one is The Ultimate Guide to Eating for Longevity, and the foreword is by T. Colin Campbell, a well-known researcher who, was well-liked. Again, the book is The Ultimate Guide to Eating for Longevity. Denny, how can listeners of Here's to Your Health contact you to find out more about your books and about the seminars and conferences that you and your wife, Susan, run on a regular basis?
Okay, well, there's two ways. My website is DennyWaxman.com. D-E is in Edward, and then Y-W-A-X-M-A-N, DennyWaxman.com. And then also our school, our nonprofit, is the Strengthening Health Institute, and that website is S-H-I Macrobiotics, M-A-C-R-O-B-I-O-T-I-C-S, S-H-I Macrobiotics.org. So both of them have incredible blogs, lots of information. We have all kinds of educational programs. As you mentioned, our book is really the guide to healthy eating and living, and also learning that healthy foods are the most delicious.
That's right, they certainly are. Our guest has been Denny Waxman. Denny Waxman and his wife Susan, they run macrobiotic conferences and give research. They do research, and they make recommendations. And the new book is The Ultimate Guide to Eating for Longevity, the macrobiotic way to live a long, healthy, and happy life. This is Josh Lane. You're listening to Here's to Your Health. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health with Joshua Lane. If you have any questions about the guests or topics discussed tonight, please give us a call at 818-707-0005. That number is 818-707-0005. This is Josh Lane. On behalf of the cast and crew, I would like to wish you a healthy and safe good evening.